there at the University of Louisiana Lafayette, and it was incredible. The event was incredible, but what's more incredible is the transcendence, the life shift that will happen because of the move. Not just the event itself, but the life shift that will happen because of the move, and that's the thing that's incredible. All events can be good, and everyone could put all of their energy into the event, but I believe the result of the event is what drained me a lot. Not drained in a bad way, but put a demand on me. Because you want to make sure that you're following the plan specifically, so the results can come, not just so decisions can be made, and not just for Christ's decisions per se, but that the transformational concept will be, because you want to assist in the elevation of minds and the shifting of lives, not just the shifting of theology, but in the shifting of lives. You don't teach the ignorant theology. You make them aware of their seed. How you doing, everyone? Chris, Steve, Sherry. You make them aware of their nature. You don't teach theology to awaken. You show people the power of their nature, a nature that they don't know, or a nature that they have given very little energy to. We said in our meeting, a babe in Christ is not just a new believer, but a babe in Christ is someone who seeks Christ the least. A babe in Christ is someone who seeks the divine the least. So therefore, you can have been saved for 20 or 30 years, but if you seek the divine the least, then you're a babe. Whatever you seek the least, you're a babe. And whatever you pursue the most, you're an adult. And most people pursue work the most. How you doing, everybody? Most people pursue this or that the most, but they seek the divine the least. So whatever you seek the least determines if that makes you a babe in a thing. It's not just new theology. You don't teach those who seek the least theology. You show them a comparison of value. You show those who seek the divine the least, you show them the value of a thing, and you help them to compare. You compel them to compare value systems to see where their attention is. You don't teach theology, so this is not about theology. This is about enlightenment. And most of us live without being enlightened at who we are. We know theology, but we're not enlightened. And so whenever we make decisions without being enlightened, we make decisions based on our feeling or something that will eventually pass away. Now, if you develop a relationship or a career on a mindset that will eventually pass away, when you do find yourself in a possibility of enlightenment, whatever you created from the mind that will pass away will also pass away. And that's why a lot of people are caught betwixt two opinions, because they become enlightened after establishing a life without being enlightened. How many of you understand what I'm saying? And so the thing is how do we establish atmospheres of enlightenment where people can realize that there is something greater than their common sense, that there is an uncommon sense, that there is a wisdom and a knowledge that's above the sense that they know. And it's not out of suspicion, but it's out of unction and divine intuition. Enlightenment. Let me hear you say it. Enlightened. There is a difference between learning theology and being enlightened in all of the power forms that's residing in your body. Before I keep going, I'm going to ask you this question, and I've asked it a lot. How many of you right now, you actually believe what God believes? You believe what God believes. When you find yourself believing what God believes, I believe what God believes, not just the theology of God, but when you believe what God believes, it's meaning that you've put your life on the line with that thought, that it's not just theology. and something happens to your body, something happens to your mind, and it raises you up to a certain dimension because you are a believer of what God believes, and you're in oneness with what God thinks. You are in oneness with what God thinks. I believe what he believes, and I'm in oneness with it. Now, process comes when you say you believe what God believes, but your actual experience haven't caught up with it. You're still processing if you can or cannot. Sometimes we believe according to the strength we have. We believe according to the responsibility that we feel that we could handle. We believe according to the strength we have. When you believe according to the strength you have, then there is a process. And when you don't feel that you have the mental strength or the tolerance or the emotional tolerance to handle this height of responsibility and identity, you will find yourself relaxing in what you know. Enlightenment is not only believing the highest thought, but it's living without a barrier. It's living without a barrier and removing the parameter and allowing that high responsibility to flood your life and your mind, which eventually affects your behavior, which eventually affects your intellect, which eventually affects your momentum and how you move, your action. When I believe what God believes, that's what I'm saying. You don't teach a babe theology. This is not about theology. The kingdom is not about theology. It's about enlightenment, living above common sense. Living knowing that there is a common sense, and then knowing that there is an uncommon sense, an intuition or a dimension above what you can see. It's living without a barrier. That's right, Sandra. It's like I'm living it, not hoping it, but living it. I'm living it. I've accepted it. And when you begin to embrace it and accept it, you'll find out that God won't be early or on time for anything you're asking. He's not obligated to be early, because you will have discovered that you have the authority yourself. You will find out that God gave you dominion before anything. He fixed it so the world and the earth realm can listen to you. So when you have authority and you ask for him, he's not obligated to be on time, because you are the mayor of that dimension in which he's assigned. How many of you understand? How many of you know you are the governor of this particular space that you've been given? So how many of you know your space? How many of you know what your space is? This is that enlightened decision making. Because so many times we make decisions on love, on finance, on wealth, health, and everything without being enlightened. And whenever you make a decision without being enlightened, that decision, how you doing, Sherry and sister-in-law and everybody? That decision can disrupt your emotion, because I made a decision on the most important thing in my life without being enlightened. It's not a matter of making the decision based on what church you go to. How enlightened are you? How incredibly skilled are you in your mind to make that particular decision without that decision robbing you emotionally? How many of you know what I'm saying? When you make an enlightened decision from an enlightened mind, those decisions must submit to your will and your desire and your intentions. You don't make a decision based on hope. You make it on purpose. And what is the purpose of my life? And where is my life going? And have I seen my life going there? And when you know where your life is going and you become enlightened in it, that decision must obey your intention. How many of you, I'm not going to hold you, how many of you, your decisions are agreeing with your commandments? When you know, now see, this is not just some spiritual gifts. See, you got to understand, spiritual gifts are not authority. This is the mindset of those who live in authority. How many of you have recognized your authority? Not my authority in Christ. No, your authority as an image of God. Your authority, which means I command this place, I command this hour. I command this. Now, you can't live undisciplined and have authority. You can't live tore in half now. You can't live procrastinating and quitting and have authority now. But when your life knows that you commit to ways of the kingdom, that you commit, I'm not talking about just committing to religion, and I just committed to this prophet or this pastor. No, and I'm not talking against that. I hope, no. But when you commit to the discipline of your purpose, your decisions will submit to your authority. Your decisions will do what you say. This is enlightened decision making. When I'm enlightened in myself, I can make the proper decisions. And these decisions are not based on how I feel. It's not based on some woman or some guy. It's not based on love. It's not based on what he said, what she said, what you're going to do. It's based on my intention. How many of you understand? Give me a show of hands. Your decisions obey you. And you don't have to worry about who's going to hurt if I make this decision. The decision is a mental commandment. What are decisions? They are mental commandments and decrees. A decision is how I will decide this hour to go and this atmosphere to go. A decision is a mental decree and a mental commandment. It's a mental commandment that I declare by my saying, and I declare it by the habits of my life. Decisions obey habits. Bad habits or good habits. When you have bad habits, your decision will create excuses and procrastinations. When you have slopeful habits, your decision will respect your slopefulness, and it will create procrastination and excuses and traffic jams when you got to get there. When your life is disciplined and you have a hope and you have a purpose and a destiny, not just saying it, but your life evolves around it. When you know it, your decisions will obey your disciplines, and it will create miracles and power and unlimitedness and faith and incredibleness. It's going to create intelligence, because the nature of how you walk and talk establishes how your mental commandments will follow you. A decision is a mental law and a mental commandment. Your decisions reflect the lives of the ones who speak it. Your decisions are a reflection of the life, not just what you're trying to do. It's a reflection of what you do. It's not a reflection of what you intend to do. It's a reflection of what you do. You can intend the good things and the right things and keep getting thrown off. Well, your decisions will reflect the throwing offness. If you keep getting distracted and thrown, your decisions will reflect getting distracted and thrown. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to hold you, just talking a little bit, because I'm still high from Lafayette. You feel me? So when you make decisions, you make them from an enlightenment. God is inviting all of us to be enlightened. That's the salvation of it, is to be enlightened. I want you to see who you are. I want you to see who you are. I want you to know who you are. I want you to know what to seek. I want you to know what to say. I want you to see who you are. And not just through theology, but life. Because some of us have a theological ministry, but our life disciplines and understanding is crude, because we think God is a theology. And you don't teach babes theology. What are babes? People who seek what I'm talking about right now. People who seek it the least. When you seek the divine path the least, you're a babe. A babe is not just somebody new in the church. The problem is we have taught people who are new to this thing theology, and we haven't taught them